You did? Go, nigga. Hold on. This is my good.
Oh, my.
Go.
40 in the night, hit your body, that's a sinner in my family with the law. Nah, nigga, I ain't kidding them. Boss man, king shit, I'm an outlaw. Sippin' up a liquor, promethazine, no alcohol. Round around the city by my lonely, can't touch me. I'm a big dog, nigga, you a hush puppy.
On January 25th, 2022, the quiet streets of Fort Worth, Texas were shattered by a crime almost too shocking to believe. A famous rapper killed his father for getting his grandson's mother pregnant. At about 4:55 p.m. that day, 47-year-old Kevin Brown Sr. was shot in the head while checking his mailbox on Beacon Way. Surveillance footage later revealed a black Chrysler 200 idling near his home for more than 10 minutes before the fatal shot rang out. What made it all disturbing was the person behind it all. It was none other than his own son, 23-year-old rapper Braylon Crazy Boy Bray Brown Jr., who was already in jail. From inside a jail cell, Braylon allegedly plotted his father's execution, all because of a betrayal involving a woman who had ties to them both and 2 children caught in the middle. But what police uncovered next turned this case from shocking to unimaginable. This is the life and death of Kevin Brown Sr., and the betrayal that tore his family apart. Fort Worth, one of Texas's largest cities, is known for its blend of cowboy culture, arts, and thriving businesses. Yet beneath its growing reputation lies a darker side: violent crime. With one of the highest crime rates in the state, the city has long struggled with gang rivalries and street conflicts. Kevin Brown's killing was not just another statistic. It became one of the most Kevin Brown Sr. was born in 1974. Much about his life has not been widely documented on the internet, and the details available are limited. What is known is that by the time he reached his late 40s, he had worked hard to provide for his family. Those who knew him remembered him as a father trying to keep his family stable, even when challenges were never far away. But his story would not be remembered for his work or his home life. Instead, it would become forever tied to the actions of his own son, a son whose path had been marked by music, gangs, and violence. That son was the 23-year-old rapper Braylon Crazy Boy Bray Brown Jr., who was already in jail.
Come on. Cassie, get this one. Get this on the ground, Cassie, on your ground. Like, you got it, Sean. Do it, tell me when you ready, Kyle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. This is my daughter. This ain't no picture. Just say, hey, say, this is my daddy.
Hey, this is my daddy.
Say, this is what we do.
That's what you do.
You know what I'm saying? Tell him I'm the hardest from the west side.
West side.
Say he the hardest from the west side.
West side.
Okay.
On the surface, he appeared to be a rising talent from Fort Worth. His raw lyrics and collaborations, including a track with Dallas rapper Mo3, pulling in millions of views. Much of his music centered on the harsh realities of street life, rivalries, and survival, echoing the world he was both a part of and trapped in. His verses often carried themes of violence, loyalty, and betrayal, resonating with some listeners while also reflecting the dangerous path he was walking in real life. These lyrics weren't just entertainment. They hinted at the turmoil that would later spill out of the studio and into the streets, foreshadowing the violent choices that would ultimately define his future. To fans, he was the gritty voice of Fort Worth street rap. But information about Braylon outside of his music is not as easily found online. Much of what is known about him isn't easily found online. But what police reports and court records reveal paint a darker picture, one far removed from the image of a rising rapper. Behind the numbers and songs, authorities documented him as a member of the Rolling 60s Crips, one of the city's most notorious sets. His reputation was not built on music alone. It was tied to a long trail of violence. The first signs of how dangerous Braylon's world could become surfaced in early 2020. It was here that the first cracks in his path became undeniable, and the city of Fort Worth would see innocent lives stolen in the crossfire.
Don't diss on Lil Zach, and no more. Finna get mad on the whip. Late Como, eat untamed, we be creeping in the store. Hey, the Chris got a camera while we shoot, that's a promo. I don't wanna hear shit, you niggas saying. Nigga, I don't want no feature, you not my friend. Cut throat in T, nigga, tell me what you saying. Dressed up in our black, see who ain't playing. Still on the miss, trying to catch me a body. It might die down, but beeping is a hobby.
On January 9th, 33-year-old Anjanette Anjan Eubanks was shot inside a home on Canyon Circle Drive. She was remembered as a kind, motherly woman, but that night, she became the first casualty directly tied to Braylon's violent feud.
Remembering her as a kind-hearted woman and a motherly type to so many, Eubanks was shot and killed inside this home we're told she was visiting Thursday night.
All I heard was a bang, bang, bang. But it was, police had the street blocked off here. A lot of vehicles, police vehicles, up and down the street.
Officer Brad Perez says so far no arrests have been made.
If anyone last night happened to see or hear anything around that time, around 11 p.m., maybe like a vehicle driving off real fast or somebody running, anything that appeared to be suspicious, we do ask that you reach out to us with that information.
It's crazy. Folks just don't value human life anymore.
Prosecutors later explained that her death was the first blow in a violent chain started by Braylon himself. But Braylon's violence did not end there. Just 3 days later, on January 12th, 17-year-old Cheyenne Moore, a high school student from Arlington, was gunned down on East Rosedale Street. Once again, prosecutors linked the killing to Braylon's actions. She had her whole future ahead of her, yet her life was cut short in a storm of bullets unleashed during the same reckless campaign. The back-to-back killings left the community stunned, and it became clear from the start that both tragedies stemmed from the violent path Braylon had chosen. According to testimony, both killings happened while Braylon and an associate, Adrian Robinson, were allegedly driving around looking for Channel 5 J-Dub, a teenage rapper caught in a feud with them. Robinson's girlfriend was said to be behind the wheel as the men searched for their target. But instead of finding him, they left behind 2 innocent victims, lives lost in a feud that had nothing to do with them. These moments acted as a warning, hinting at the scale of destruction that would follow. The tragedies of Eubanks and Moore sent ripples of fear through Fort Worth, foreshadowing the chaos and bloodshed that would follow wherever Braylon's name appeared. Each killing showed how far the violence could reach and how quickly others could be pulled into its wake. The stage was set for even greater violence, and the name Crazy Boy Bray would soon be tied to even darker chapters of Fort Worth's history. That feud did not stop there, however. Only a month later, Channel 5 J-Dub himself was shot dead including a Mother's Day shooting at a public park where more than 50 rounds were fired and several people were injured. By that time, Braylon was already behind bars, charged in connection with the murders of Eubanks and Moore. Yet from jail, his presence lingered like a shadow. He released a diss track mocking J-Dub's death, a move that stirred even more anger and violence. That diss track may have kept his name alive in the streets, but outside the jail walls, another story was beginning to form. The months leading up to the next tragedy revealed a storm quietly brewing, one that would strike not at a rival, but within his own family. While Braylon sat in bars, his father, Kevin Sr., began a secret affair with Rebecca Shea Willis. On the surface, it might have looked like an ordinary relationship between a man and a woman, but there was a disturbing problem. Shea had already been in a relationship with Kevin's other son, Kevin Jr., and even had a baby with him. The situation crossed boundaries that never should have been crossed. Making matters worse, Shea later had a child with Kevin Sr. as well. She had once been with Kevin Jr. and then became tied to his father, which created a tangled and troubling dynamic. For a family already scarred by the loss of Kevin Jr. during a robbery attempt, this revelation struck deep and reopened old wounds. To Braylon, it was more than a relationship. It was an unforgivable betrayal. He could not accept the shame and anger it brought, and the bitterness ate away at him even while he sat in his cell. The feeling of being wronged by his own father pushed him toward a horrifying decision, one that would leave his family broken forever. He began to describe his father as grimy, and from his cell he started to plot the unthinkable, the murder of his own father.
You know I'm gon' die about mine. I be getting hot, just laying back on the low. These niggas play with me, I swear you gon' get smoke. And I ain't never had nobody with me. It always seem like motherfuckers pull me down or against me. Feel me? Why they had to take my brothers? Now I'm stuck off in the rain. Yeah, they made a nigga suffer. Speak on their name, we slang them cutters.
What started as anger grew into obsession. The betrayal festered until it became the only thing on his mind, and soon his thoughts turned into plans. From behind bars, where most would feel powerless, Braylon found a way to control events on the outside. He began laying out every step, convinced that only his father's death could settle the rage inside him. The plan was meticulous. From his jail cell, Braylon broke it down step by step, First, he turned to Damon Mon Cotton, just 19 years old, and made him the one who would pull the trigger. Next came Cotton's girlfriend, Ashlyn Durham, who agreed to sit behind the wheel and drive the getaway car. Finally, there was Alexis Abeta, another girlfriend of Braylon's, who was tasked with buying the bullets and setting up key phone calls. Each role was clear, and each person had their part to play. From inside jail, Braylon sent instructions through his tablet and phone calls. He did not speak plainly. Instead, he used code. Guns were called controllers, and bullets were called pieces. Every message revealed how carefully he planned, even from a cell. Step by step, the plot took shape. Cotton was promised a payment of $2,000 to $3,000 for carrying out the shooting, a deal that bound him to the plan and gave the plot its final, chilling edge. On the afternoon of January 25, 2022, the chilling plan that Braylon was plotting happened. That day began like any other day, on Beacon Way in Fort Worth. The quiet neighborhood seemed calm, the kind of place where nothing unusual was expected. But beneath that calm, something dark had already been set in motion. Kevin Brown Sr. stepped out of his home just before 5 p.m., phone pressed to his ear as he slowly walked down his driveway. He opened the mailbox, found it empty, and shut the door, standing idly beside it. To him, it was a simple moment, but in truth, it was part of a carefully laid trap. Just a short distance away, a black Chrysler 200 sat waiting. The car had been idling for more than 10 minutes, its presence unnoticed by most. Inside, Ashlyn Durham gripped the steering wheel. Her boyfriend Damon Mon Cotton crouched in the backseat with a rifle at the ready.
They weren't acting on their own. Their every move was guided by Braylon Brown's orders, echoing from behind prison walls. The setup was chillingly precise. Kevin's walk to the mailbox was not random. It was the cue they had been waiting for. Cotton leaned out from the rear window, and in an instant, the silence of the street was shattered. A burst of gunfire ripped through the air, so sudden and violent that neighbors froze in shock. One of the bullets struck Kevin in the head, killing him instantly. Brick fragments from the mailbox flew into the air as his body collapsed at the edge of the driveway. Within moments, the Chryslers sped away, leaving behind nothing but chaos and the eerie stillness that follows violence. Later, investigators uncovered what made this murder even more disturbing. The phone call Kevin had been on when he walked outside was no coincidence. From his cell inside Tarrant County Jail, Braylon had arranged a three-way call with the help of Alexis Abeta. Through that call, Braylon directed his father outside, telling him to check the mailbox. Kevin, unaware,
and made him the one who would pull the trigger. Next came Cotton's girlfriend, Ashlyn Durham, who agreed to sit behind the wheel and drive the getaway car. Finally, there was Alexis Abeta, another girlfriend of Braylon's, who was tasked with buying the bullets and setting up key phone calls. Each role was clear, and each person had their part to play. From inside jail, Braylon sent instructions through his tablet and phone calls. He did not speak plainly. Instead, he used code. Guns were called controllers, and bullets were called pieces. Every message revealed how carefully he planned, even from a cell. Step by step, the plot took shape. Cotton was promised a payment of $2,000 to $3,000 for carrying out the shooting, a deal that bound him to the plan and gave the plot its final, chilling edge. On the afternoon of January 25, 2022, the chilling plan that Braylon was plotting happened. That day began like any other day, on Beacon Way in Fort Worth. The quiet neighborhood seemed calm, the kind of place where nothing unusual was expected. But beneath that calm, something dark had already been set in motion. Kevin Brown Sr. stepped out of his home just before 5 p.m., phone pressed to his ear as he slowly walked down his driveway. He opened the mailbox, found it empty, and shut the door, standing idly beside it. To him, it was a simple moment, but in truth, it was part of a carefully laid trap. Just a short distance away, a black Chrysler 200 sat waiting. The car had been idling for more than 10 minutes, its presence unnoticed by most. Inside, Ashlyn Durham gripped the steering wheel. Her boyfriend Damon Mon Cotton crouched in the backseat with a rifle at the ready.
They weren't acting on their own. Their every move was guided by Braylon Brown's orders, echoing from behind prison walls. The setup was chillingly precise. Kevin's walk to the mailbox was not random. It was the cue they had been waiting for. Cotton leaned out from the rear window, and in an instant, the silence of the street was shattered. A burst of gunfire ripped through the air, so sudden and violent that neighbors froze in shock. One of the bullets struck Kevin in the head, killing him instantly. Brick fragments from the mailbox flew into the air as his body collapsed at the edge of the driveway. Within moments, the Chryslers sped away, leaving behind nothing but chaos and the eerie stillness that follows violence. Later, investigators uncovered what made this murder even more disturbing. The phone call Kevin had been on when he walked outside was no coincidence. From his cell inside Tarrant County Jail, Braylon had arranged a three-way call with the help of Alexis Abeyta. Through that call, Braylon directed his father outside, telling him to check the mailbox. Kevin, unaware of the danger, followed the words of his own son. At that exact moment, Cotton was waiting with his rifle. The ambush was carried out in real time, listening as his plan unfolded. The pieces of the plot became clearer as the truth came out. Cotton pulled the trigger. Durham drove the getaway car. Abeyta connected the calls and even secured the bullets Cotton would use. But the mastermind was Braylon. From his jail cell, he had orchestrated every step, turning words into weapons. A father's life ended at his own mailbox, not by the hand of a stranger, but by the design of his son. The shock of that betrayal left Fort Worth shaken, a city forced to reckon with just how far the cycle of violence had gone. The murder of Kevin Brown Sr. shocked Fort Worth, but what came after revealed just how deeply twisted the case really was. Detectives wasted no time pulling every thread they could find. They reviewed the neighbor's surveillance video frame by frame, tracing the Chrysler 200 with its bent fender and damaged tire. Real-time crime cameras across the city helped them track the car's movements, narrowing in on its owner and, eventually, on Ashlyn Durham and Damon Cotton. What began as a grainy clip of a car on a quiet street soon unraveled into a web of betrayal, money, and orders that reached straight into the county jail. When police moved in, the truth finally came out little by little. Investigators uncovered his jail tablet messages, his phone calls, the coded words he used for guns and bullets. And to top it all off, the police found the elaborate plan he made to kill his father. Piece by piece, the picture grew darker. And then came the evidence that pushed the case into an even deeper shadow. It wasn't just about the planning, it was about the betrayal inside the family. The police discovered that Kevin Sr. had been in a relationship with Rebecca Shea Willis, the same woman who had also been with Braylon's brother. She had children with both father and son. This revelation turned the case into something even more twisted, showing the painful betrayal that Braylon called grimy and refused to forgive. By the time the trials began, there was no denying what had happened. Cotton was sentenced to 65 years in prison for pulling the trigger. Durham and Abeyta faced their own charges for their roles in the murder, with both women hoping their cooperation on the witness stand would reduce their sentences. And Braylon Brown? He was convicted of murder and given a life sentence. A rapper once known for his music and violent lyrics was now branded as the mastermind who had arranged his own father's execution from a jail cell. The community struggled to make sense of it. Kevin Sr.'s death was not just another statistic of gun violence. It was a father taken by his son, a betrayal that left neighbors and friends shaken. Families across Fort Worth spoke of the case as a chilling reminder of how cycles of violence, gang culture, and broken loyalty could destroy even the closest bonds. To them, this was not just about one family. It was about the dangers that come when rage and revenge dictate the course of a life. For hip-hop, the story added to a growing list of tragedies where rappers and violence collided. Crazy Boy Bray's downfall became a cautionary tale, a reminder that the same energy put into music and image can turn deadly when mixed with real-life grudges. His case stood as one of the most shocking, not only because of the crime itself, but because of who he targeted: a son, killing his father over betrayal and pride. Even now, the legacy of the case lingers. Kevin Sr. is remembered by those who loved him, a man who should have been safe in his own driveway. Braylon's locked away, serving a life sentence that closed the chapter on his career, but left behind scars that his family will never heal from. And Fort Worth carries the weight of another name etched into its long history of violence, a story of blood ties severed in the most brutal way.